Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The chapel smelled of lilies and champagne, of promise and endings. I sat in the front pew, clutching a bouquet that trembled in my hands. My son, Frank, stood at the altar, tall, nervous, and glowing with that rare kind of joy only love can bring. When Selena appeared, the crowd gasped. She was flawless, every movement rehearsed, every smile angelic. I wanted to believe she was everything he saw in her. God knows I did. But as she glided down the aisle, her eyes flicked, not at Frank, but toward Derek, the best man. Just for a heartbeat, their glances met. It was nothing to anyone else. But to a mother, it was everything. When the ceremony ended, laughter filled the garden. Guests toasted, children played, and the air felt almost too perfect, like glass before it shatters. I caught Derek near the bar, whispering something to Selena. Her cheeks flushed crimson. She saw me watching, then looped her arm through Frank's and kissed his cheek like a performance meant for the cameras. Later, as twilight draped over the reception, Frank came to me. "Mom, she's perfect, isn't she?" he asked, his eyes glimmering with hope. "She's unforgettable," I said softly, forcing a smile that hurt. He laughed, oblivious, and spun her across the dance floor. I clapped, pretending not to feel the ache spreading through my chest. Every time she laughed, Derek's gaze found her. Every time she touched my son, her expression flickered. Guilt? Desire? I couldn't tell. That night, when I finally drove home, the bouquet lay on the seat beside me, petals bruised and scent fading. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that love could still be pure, that the shadows I saw were just tricks of light. But mothers know. We always know. If only I'd known that a single photograph, months later, would prove that every doubt I buried that night was painfully, devastatingly real. 4 quiet months passed after the wedding. I tried to silence my doubts, telling myself that every uneasy thought was just a mother's overprotective instinct. Frank and Selena seemed happy, at least on the surface. They posted smiling photos from their new apartment, wrote sweet captions about forever, and called only when they needed something. Then one gray afternoon my phone rang. "Mrs. Kirk," a man's voice said, trembling slightly. "It's David Elliott, the photographer from Frank's wedding. Please, could you come by my studio, alone?" There was a nervous urgency in his tone that made my skin prickle. I drove through the drizzle, windshield wipers beating like anxious thoughts. When I arrived, David's studio was dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of coffee and fear. He didn't waste time. He slid a memory card toward me with shaking fingers. I was backing up old files, he whispered, and found something that wasn't in the album I delivered. On the monitor, photo after photo appeared. My breath hitched. There was Selena, still in her white rehearsal gown, behind the chapel, pressed against Derek, his hands on her face. Her eyes closed, her lips parted. "This can't be," I whispered. "The day before the wedding?" "Time-stamped," David said softly. 2 days before. I pressed a hand to my chest, my vision blurring. My son's bride, the woman who called me mom and hugged me as if she meant it, had betrayed him before their vows were even spoken. Tears slid down my cheeks, falling silently onto the desk. "Does Frank know?" I asked. "No," David said, "and he needs to hear it from you." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky as if heaven itself protested the truth. But when I tried to tell my son, I discovered Selena had already planned her counterattack, and I was her first target. I barely slept that night. By dawn, I had decided Frank deserved the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I printed the photos and drove to their house, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. Selena opened the door in a silk robe, her hair still damp from a shower. Her eyes widened when she saw the envelope in my hand. "Adeline, you didn't call first." "We need to talk," I said, stepping inside. "Now." I laid the photos on the dining table. For a moment, her face went white. Then, just as quickly, she composed herself. A sly smile curved her lips. "Oh dear, you actually believe these?" "They're real, Selena." The photographer confirmed it. 2 days before your wedding. She sighed, feigning pity. "I see what this is. You're jealous. You've never liked me, have you?" Before I could respond, Frank walked in from the hallway, buttoning his shirt. "What's going on?" "Your mother," Selena said sweetly, turning to him, "photoshopped our wedding photos in Photoshop." My heart stopped. "That's a lie," I cried. "Frank, please, look at the timestamps," asked David. "Enough." he shouted, his voice trembling. I can't believe you'd stoop this low, Mom. The room spun. I saw Selena slip her hand into his, tears glistening on cue. Within hours, she'd sent him fake screenshots, messages supposedly from me calling her a gold digger, a manipulator. And he believed her. I sat alone that evening, staring at the fading daylight, realizing how swiftly a lie can choke the truth. My son had turned away from me, but if Selena thought she'd silenced me, she underestimated the strength of a mother who'd just been broken and was now ready to fight back. For weeks, my house felt like a tomb. Frank stopped visiting. When I called, Selena always answered, her tone dripping with false sympathy. He needs space, Adeline, she would say softly. You've hurt him enough. Every word cut like glass. But grief, I learned, can harden into purpose. I called David, the photographer. His voice cracked when he heard mine. She's twisted everything, I whispered. She's made me the villain. Then we'll make the truth louder than her lies, he said firmly. David introduced me to Francis Brooks, a quiet, meticulous cybersecurity expert with a mind like a scalpel. For nights, the three of us worked in secret, tracing files, digging through encrypted archives. My dining room became a war room of evidence, coffee cups, and sleepless determination. Then one night, Francis froze at his laptop. Adeline, you need to see this. He turned the screen toward me, bank statements, offshore transfers, and an email trail between Selena and Derek. They weren't just lovers. They were partners in a fraudulent investment scheme targeting elderly investors. And the most horrifying part? My name was on some of the accounts. She's using me, I breathed, my voice breaking. She married Frank to get to my savings. Francis nodded grimly. If she succeeds, you'll lose everything, and your son will take the blame. Tears burned down my cheeks. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore. It was calculated, professional, venomous. I stared at the evidence, my pulse steadying with resolve. We gather proof, I said quietly, but not for the police, not yet. Frank needs to see her for who she is. And so I began my quiet hunt. I just didn't know the truth would explode in front of everyone I loved. 5 months after the wedding, I stood beneath a canopy of silver lights at Frank and Selena's anniversary party. Laughter filled the hall, forced, glittering, hollow. When the music faded, I took the microphone, my voice calm but trembling. I have something everyone needs to see. The projector flickered to life. The first clip appeared. Selena and Derek, the best man, hidden behind the chapel. They hugged and kissed. Gasps rippled through the room. Then came the messages, projected in bold, undeniable text. After the honeymoon, I'll transfer all his money and his mother's money. They won't even notice how they lose everything. A stunned silence. Frank turned to Selena, pale and motionless. Tell me this isn't real, he whispered. Selena lunged for the microphone, shouting, It's fake. She edited it. But Caleb, the photographer, stepped forward, voice steady. The metadata is untouched. Every frame is authentic. Security moved in as Selena's protest turned to shrieks. Guests murmured, some in pity, others in awe. That night, Frank came to my house, eyes red and swollen. Mom, I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I held him close, tears of both pain and relief wetting my cheek. The next morning, Caleb uploaded his short documentary, Through the Lens of a Lie. It spread like wildfire. The video went viral and garnered millions of views. Not for vengeance, but for truth that refused to stay buried.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.